with congestion pricing.
Yeah.
Huge news today. I want to get your reaction to the breaking news that the Trump administration has killed congestion pricing.
Yeah, they got there for different reasons than we got there, but they got to the same place. Our basis was there was not a full environmental study done around this, that the pollution really wasn't going away. It was moving from Manhattan to New Jersey. And that secondly, in this case, both cases, the Biden administration did not, there was no money put aside for us to deal with that mitigation on the Jersey side. And on top of that, it was a deal that was raw for our commuters. So that's how we got there. We've been in the same place for years. The Trump administration, I think, got there through a different lane.
You don't care how they got there as long as they got there.
I was just about to say I'm thankful that's where they landed. And Secretary Duffy, who, by the way, is a New Jersey resident, I thank them both. And again, I've said this on the show so many times. We've got the strongest environmental record of any state in America over the past 7 years. This isn't because we're not sympathetic to reducing pollution or pushing back on climate change and defending the environment. This was just a raw deal for New Jersey, both the pollution, the lack of money to deal with the pollution, and as importantly, if not more so, the price at the pump, if you will, for commuters going across the Hudson River.
The reaction and the backlash has been fast and furious this afternoon, especially
I've gotten some of it as well.
Social media. Yeah, Congressman Josh Gottheimer, Senator, and of course, gubernatorial candidate John Bramnick, Jim Tedesco, Bergen County Executive, Anthony Bucco, State Senator, all of them praising this decision here in New Jersey. Your administration, you mentioned this, you fought this from the get-go.
We did.
From the very start. Were you confident that the president would ultimately take this action? Did you expect it to come quite as quickly as it did?
I'm not sure I had a predisposed sense of timing. He had said publicly he was opposed to it. So he's been following through, whether you like it or not, in the first month on things that he said publicly. I have had the chance to liaise with Secretary Duffy. Again, they got there for different reasons, but they got there.
Well, by the way, Secretary Duffy, in his letter to Governor Hochul, mentioned your letter to the Trump administration, to the president, numerous times in that letter.
I'm aware. Again, listen, the folks might not think this, given our conversation and what happened. We enjoy a very good relationship with New York State and with New York City. Their success in many respects is our success, particularly the city with so many people living in North Jersey, Central Jersey, who have their livelihood or their recreation in Manhattan. So we cooperate on a whole range of interests. This was done purely to line the pockets of the MTA. This was a financial move, far more than it was an environmental move.
Oh, you and others have called it a cash grab time and again.
You bet.
Listen, very quickly, because I do want to get to some of the reactions from the MTA and Governor Hochul, but you just spoke about the relationship, the close relationship between New York and New Jersey. Does this decision sour that relationship at all?
Well, this has been a point of tension.
Especially with the World Cup coming and other big projects.
Well, the World Cup is with New York City, and we've got a great relationship with the city. This really has never, ironically, given the congestion zone is in New York City, this has been the MTA in New York State. The MTA is an agency of the state. We have a great relationship with the city. I don't think this impacts it in any way, shape, or form. It has been a point of tension with New York State, with Governor Hochul and me. I have a lot of regard for her. We do a lot of other things together. And I'm expected, we're all gathering at a conference in Washington over the next few days. I'm expecting to see her.
It's the Governors Association.
National Governors Association. And I hope, again, we can continue to find common ground.
So Governor Hochul, as you probably saw, responded to today's news and basically said, we'll see you in court, responding to the Trump administration, that the MTA has already taken and initiated legal proceedings in the Southern District of New York in federal court. We have a statement from the MTA as well, from MTA Chair and CEO John Lieber regarding this. He said, it's mystifying that after 4 years and 4,000 pages of federally supervised environmental review and barely 3 months after giving final approval to the congestion relief program, the U.S. DOT would seek to totally reverse course. So
I'm not a fan, and he knows that, and I blame the MTA far more than I blame the governor on this whole fiasco. But the fact of the matter is, and he knows that what he's saying is not consistent with the requests that we put in and would normally be done to do what they call a full environmental impact statement. It takes longer, could take 2 or 3 years, but we said from the get-go, we'll live with the results, even if we don't like the results. Instead, they shortcut this process. They did not give proper consideration to pollution being displaced to New Jersey. They didn't give us a proper amount of money to deal with it. And they charged our commuters through the nose. I put this corporate transit fee into place last year, which was not fun, not pain-free with our corporations. But we solved NJ Transit's fiscal challenges within the 4 walls of New Jersey. I think that's the way it should be. We didn't mooch off our neighbors, and that's what this reeked of from the get-go. So we fight on. By the way, we're still in court, entirely separately from New York challenging the federal administration. We're still in court. No news on that front.
Where do you see New Jersey's role when it comes to potentially joining with the federal government, the Department of Transportation, in fighting back against New York's legal challenge?
Too early to tell, honestly. We had a few conversations with our lawyers today. Stay tuned on that one. As I mentioned, we had our separate endeavor that's been out there for quite some time. We just recalibrated that complaint a few weeks ago. So we'll see where all the legal stuff lands.
I also have to raise a question. As I look at the pretext for this rejection, and we have a lot of legal reasons why we know we're going to be victorious, but they actually cited the will of New Jersey. New Jersey didn't want this. Ignoring the will, the people live here, they're elected leaders in Albany, and all of a sudden, the Trump administration is citing, well, New Jersey wasn't happy.
All right, welcome back to Ask Governor Murphy, and that was your first time hearing Governor Hochul's comments.
I believe that you told me that just happened, right?
Just happened. So let's get your reaction.
Well, again, I don't want to cover ground we've already covered, and I have a lot of regard for Governor Hochul. And by the way, she gets elected by people in New York, not New Jersey, so I can understand in many respects her passion right now, and this is obviously a program that's dear to her. The mistakes that were made were made way back when on the New York side of the Hudson, and they were never corrected. If the MTA, by the way, again, this is a financial grab on our back, as opposed to some high-minded only environmental program. It is that, but they admit it themselves. In their rationale, the first paragraph of their rationale is they've got a financial hole that they have to fill, and they figure this is the only way they could fill it. We took a more painful, personal inside of New Jersey route with this corporate transit fee, and by the way, it's working. So if, again, theoretically, way back when, let's sit down. Let's sit at a table, figure out, maybe even, God forbid, a regional approach. We have been reasonable, in my humble opinion, from day one, and we continue to be. We're not conceptually against this, but the deal, I'll use a diplomatic term as a former ambassador, sucked for New Jersey. And we weren't going to stand for that. Our commuters were paying through the nose. The pollution was coming to us, not going away. And we weren't getting money, sufficient amount of money, to deal with the pollution. So that's not a deal we can sign on to, as opposed to we're opposed to reducing pollution or doing nothing about climate change or the environment. And one last thing, I mentioned this earlier. In so many respects, as New York City goes, we go, particularly in the central and northern part of Jersey. We want this region to be a booming success, a model for the country. I didn't write the letter, by the way. I did not ask that New Jersey be added to the letter that Governor Hochul was reading from. That's for someone else to answer.